Good evening, Baller Nation. It's your boys, the Shot Callers, back with another podcast episode. The date is July 21st, 2020, and as always, Bright Talk Basketball. I'm your host, JV, and from their respective homes, I got my boy, Richard Bustos.
What up, what up, what up, what up? It's late at night, and I'm pumped.
And my man, Andre West.
It's your boy, Andre. What's going on, y'all?
Back with episode 5 of the NBA Campus Preview. We got 3 more teams slated out for you guys. We're going to go over each of those teams in due time, but before we get started, let's go over some social media. If you don't already follow us, we are on Twitter at ShotCallerShow. That's at ShotCallerShow. Instagram, _ShotCallers. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Radio.com, and Pocket Cast. And if you'd like to reach us directly, you can always message us to ShotCallerShow@gmail.com. Before we jump into our teams, Richard is going to go over some NBA news. So a couple things have happened since the last pod, which was only a couple days ago, Rich.
Hell yeah, I was surprised when I was just gathering things. I was like, man, all of this has come out like in the past basically 24 hours. So hopefully if we get this up for you guys listening in the morning, you guys will be fresh and up to date. I'll start off with the most positive news. We've got, as of on July 13th, 2 players tested positive for COVID-19 out of 322, which is great on its own. Great ratio. You know, it's what I think the NBA couldn't have hoped for better after doing their testing. And other players did test positive, but didn't travel towards the campus just yet. Russell Westbrook among them. But since that date, the NBPA and the NBA have reported that they have 0 positive tests since then. So can I get a hell yeah?
Get a hell yeah for me, brother.
Hell yeah.
So that sounds great.
Yeah.
All we can do is keep hoping for more positive momentum. So that's terrific. A couple of players broke their quarantine, and I think it's a testament to how good their quarantine strategies have been, or their methodology, even on media members not being able to leave their rooms. Ben Golliver of the that was formerly of the Washington Post. It was quarantined for like 10 days, just pacing back and forth, unable to leave. 2 players, Rashawn Holmes, who Andre remembers from being a fun, crowd favorite from the Sixers, and Bruno Caboclo, a.k.a. 4 years away from being 4 years away on the Raptors, both broke quarantine to get food. I mean, I wonder how good the DoorDash could have been, but they did. And they had to quarantine for like 10 more days. Like, man, you're still stuck in there because you had to go get this DoorDash. Anyway, so that's great.
The campus food's a little dry, man. They gotta go and.
Was it actually DoorDash?
It was definitely to pick up food. I don't know which.
I think it was some fast food. Yeah.
Yeah, it was to pick up a food delivery. I don't think they name dropped the food delivery service. So anyway, we have some injury news. Justice Winslow of the Memphis Grizzlies, who we will be covering in a later episode, is out for the remainder, or what's remainder of the season and the rest of this tournament. So that's a bit of a downer. We'll see. We'll foretell their futures in a coming episode. Skipping a little bit more forward, the scrimmages are starting this Wednesday. I wanted to just kind of put that in y'all's ears, just to kind of let y'all know. We've been talking so much about the 30th coming up and the launch of the full seeding games, but there are going to be some questionable as far as performance or sloppy play games going on, and a lot of them are going to be on NBA TV, and the rest of them are going to be on League Pass, or in whatever illegal streaming method you prefer, starting the 22nd. The Trailblazers against Indiana, Lakers at Mavericks, that's on Thursday the 23rd. I believe that's on NBA TV. The 76ers versus Oklahoma City on Sunday. The Blazers and Raptors on Sunday the 26th as well. And then a week from now, Tuesday, they got the Grizzlies and the Heat. So definitely some games to keep an eye on. So yeah, pretty cool. So if you guys are some true hoop heads, catch at least the highlights on YouTube, or turn into the stream, or catch NBA TV, or at least record the game. So that way, if we let y'all know if something crazy that happened, you guys can take a look back and see what happened. So that's positive.
Yeah, so some of these episodes are going to be before the rest of our previews are finished, guys. So if there's anything that stands out, we'll make sure to let you guys know.
You said they'll be before our previews, JV?
Like before all of our previews are complete. Some of these games are taking place before all of our previews are complete. So some of the future episodes will definitely feature some of that content.
Yeah, exactly. If it coincides with our stuff for sure. And then the final tip or the final bit of news that I want to kind of hear y'all's take. So Glenn Taylor, or it kind of leaked today that the ownership group, including priority or majority owner Glenn Taylor, is exploring the idea of selling the Minnesota Timberwolves to another buying group, of course, kind of putting some feelers out. Kevin Garnett has been rumored to be a member of the main buying group that's interested. Of course, there are plenty of suitors. I'm sure there's only 30 teams, and their value is like hotcakes. Like, where else can you get a revenue sharing like this outside of a major sports league? So I'm sure they'll have plenty of suitors no matter where the location. However, he does say that staying in Minnesota is a major key towards finding a suitable seller. Do you guys think that, from eye in the sky, we're looking back at 2050, trying to make some sort of like prediction here? Would it be better for the Minnesota Timberwolves to be in a different market, or should they stay true to where they've been? Which would you rather see?
I think they should stay put for the fact that it's one of the few cities that have all four major sports. So you got the Twins in baseball, you got the Vikings in football, and you got the Wild in hockey. So, and I think I briefly read this, Rich, but I believe one of the top contenders for being a purchaser owns one of those teams. I can't remember which one, but they already own one of the other franchises in the Minnesota market. So if I had to bet on who's gonna probably win out that bid, I would say them, considering that that's kind of one of the contingencies, not a contingency, but one of the things they're looking for.
Yeah. So I purchased a home in the past few years, and what this reminds me of, this is not a team by any means, but sometimes of course, but sometimes when you're buying a home, you're encouraged to write a letter to the seller saying, "Oh, I love your home. I love this about it. Reminds me of my childhood. I look forward to raising my children here." And sometimes the person that writes a personal sentiment like that will beat out a higher bidder because they're afraid that their home is just going to be, flipped or just as an investment as opposed to something personal. So I think that's kind of a similar idea that Glenn Taylor has, like someone that wants to grow the franchise where it is, where he's been, and make it a larger pillar of the Minnesota community, Minneapolis, of course. So I think that's kind of what I'm getting at here, or what it reminded me of. You think they're staying? You think they would stay, or would it be better for them to go, Andre?
I think they should stay. I agree with JV. I mean, it's a city that already has four of the other major, or it has all four of the major leagues there. So I don't know. I like Minnesota where it's at. It like in terms of geographically, like it just makes sense for them to be there.
So you're saying Seattle?
Yeah.
Screw Seattle.
Oh, Seattle, they can get their team in the expansion, but Minnesota should stay where they are and maybe move to the Eastern Conference.
I mean, we could always use another California team.
Oh yeah, we need more of those fucking.
Yeah, right.
I for one enjoy 11 p.m. start times.
Dude, they freaking got like a whole league of their own in LA. The LA teams made a consortium to promote diversity in youth sports and even the playing field, which is terrific. But that's how many teams they have. They formed their own league of LA teams.
I mean, yeah, let the small markets have their team. If the Clippers don't do anything this year, they need to move to like Las Vegas or something. Bring back the Seahawks or the Sonics, and let Minnesota keep their team. California, they got enough.
I'm all for Seattle, man. That's got to be in the works for sure. Yeah. I know the entire pandemic and COVID thing has definitely thrown a wrench in a lot of things, and I hope that's not one of them. But they got to be up next, Even for a relocation, Andre, don't you think? Like, I know you're saying they can get it through expansion, but so can Vegas. I think you got to give first dibs to Seattle if that happens.
Oh, yeah, Seattle for sure. Just bring the Sonics back.
And rip that history out of Oklahoma City's
yeah. I mean, hey, they can keep everything they had. Just it's everything before 2007 goes back to Seattle.
I'm with it.
Cool. So you want to hit the previews, guys?
Yeah, so that's going to do it for the news segment. We're going to jump right into our 3-team preview. Who wants to go first? I went first last time, so Rich, kick it off this time.
Yeah, I can. And I wonder if you guys actually, just to let the listeners know, these teams are we are fair here at the Shot Callers. We're going to cover all the teams, not just the ones that are likely to be contenders or to likely, we're going to cover the teams that are below the 8th seed in the West and the East. So y'all get ready for an action-packed episode. We love these episodes just as much as when we talk about the contenders. I'm covering the Orlando Magic. Some might say the only home team in this whole tournament. So they got to have an edge here, right? Right. So.
Right.
I guess.
I mean, they're hoping for any kind of edge they can get, and as I'm gonna kind of explain to y'all, they're kind of doing some hoping to get through the first round, because they're gonna make the playoffs. Contingent on a couple things. One thing that I'm really curious to see is if Jonathan Isaac is going to end up playing. He's been playing some 5-on-5 since returning from injury and returning to the campus to ramp up his return to play. He did suffer a major knee sprain and a bone bruise on January 1st and has not played since then. So 7 months off, I mean, you're probably going to tell me, but Rich, 7 months off, he probably looks better than ever. And he might. He's probably added some muscle. But a big fear is a lot of soft tissue injuries coming back to, high stakes, high intensity play after such a long time off for any team. Boston Celtics, Philadelphia 76ers, whoever, let alone someone that has not played serious games since January 1st. If he can play, of course, NBA hoop heads might know, he's a terrific defender. He's kind of making it work a little bit on the offensive end, able to hit some open jumpers. Handle looks not too crisp, but not stiff either, kind of in between. So definitely looks to be a good prospect and a good draft pick so far from the Magic from a season ago. So that's kind of what I'm keeping an eye on. If you look at previous players that have played for the Magic and have had different kinds of injuries, they always err on the side of caution, looking towards the future as opposed to winning now. In Isaac's rookie year, they held him out for an extended period of time. Mo Bamba last summer, when he was injured, he didn't play in summer league for a while. And then when they ended up getting Markelle Fultz in a trade, they definitely didn't rush him back after all of his sporadic thoracic outlet syndrome that he was going on with his hitch in the free throws and hitch in his shots. So I'm thinking he's not gonna play, but I'm hoping he does. He's kind of the linchpin for me, and I'll give out a kind of interesting stat at the end of this whole preview. As far as their schedule goes, they have a harder schedule than they were slated to play in regular season. They're currently in the 8th seed, and they're hoping to jump up to the 7th and pass the Nets. They actually end up playing the Nets immediately on their first game back on Friday the 31st. Play against the Kings, play against the Pacers. So you're thinking those are going to be a little softer, especially if Oladipo doesn't play. Then they got a bit of a murderer's row. Toronto Raptors, Philadelphia 76ers, Boston Celtics, play the Nets again. So that's going to be huge for their seeding. And then they wrap it up with New Orleans Pelicans, and who knows how hard the Pelicans are going to be gunning for their 9th seed playing appearance. So I think it's going to be tough on them, especially when you factor in their other key player. Markelle Fultz is back, and he's going to be playing to begin the tournament, but he just started practicing 4 days ago on the 17th. So I wouldn't say he's in game shape either. Since All-Star break, he was playing 29 minutes a game. I don't know if they're going to keep his averages up that high. I think they're going to be pretty conservative with everyone's minutes. And if he's not playing, that means we're going to get more DJ Augustin backing him up. Michael Carter-Williams, who I swear was just on the Rockets like yesterday, and he's back on the Magic over here. And if for real, I mean, y'all remember him? I see him in red right now in my mind. But
he's on the Magic. Michael Carter-Williams hasn't worn?
I don't know. He's been on the Bucks. He's been on the Sixers. He's been all over the East.
Anyway. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. But I mean, when DJ August is in there, he's going to be able to drop some dimes over to Vucevic, but also light it up from 3. We've seen him play in person. That guy is a baller, no matter how short he is. Michael Carter-Williams does not have the shot, so he's going to be kind of trying to slash to the rim a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, DJ Augustin is the one that rattled the Raptors last year, remember?
Yeah, that first game. Game 1.
Rattled him. He rattled them, man. They had
the Raptors were susceptible to being rattled. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so I think that we're going to see a lot of more minutes from the 3 of them, 3-guard kind of rotation versus the Nets, Kings, and Pacers to start with. As far as other injuries, good news, Evan Fournier is back. Top scorer, leading scorer for the team this season, right up there with Nikola Vucevic. So returning from his elbow injury, James Ennis, who was also on the Sixers before. I guess they're all ex-Sixers over there. He had COVID-19, but he has since recovered. After when he reported that he had it, he had already recovered and rejoined the team. So that's a guy that can give you spot minutes and doesn't make bad decisions with the ball. So that's going to be key. As far as their outlook for trying to make a run through the playoffs, this is kind of what I'm looking at. It's a neutral site, right? So they're the 7th seed, or they're the 8th seed trying to get to the 7th seed. If they're able to avoid the Bucks, they kind of have a prayer. They're in a neutral site, but really they're in Orlando, so they should feel at home. Wear those orange jerseys. Like everything's different. The Magic are different. They're not a 7th seed. They're not an 8th seed. They're a 1 seed. All the rules go out the window. Anything could happen. Their opponents that they're likely going to face, Celtics, Raptors, Bucks, all shoot the three better than the than the Magic do, which is a bad sign. The Magic are shooting 34% from three this season. They're letting up 37% from three from their opponents. So they're already behind the 8 ball. But if no one has stamina, maybe the threes aren't going to be falling for their opponents like they normally do, because you need legs to shoot threes, especially in the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. So that could go in their favor. That's kind of what they're hoping, I think, from my perspective. As far as players that I'm keeping an eye on for their run, I'm glad to see that Evan Fournier is back. But if he's handling the ball, to kind of supplement Markelle Fultz returning, he's leading the team almost in turnovers. Markelle Fultz, who's been playing the point most of the time, has 131 turnovers on the season. Evan Fournier has 120. So it's pretty high. Nobody else breaks 100 for the team. So I'm kind of wondering about ball security. We all know that the best teams don't turn the ball over. Just look at the Milwaukee Bucks. Jonathan Isaac, I kind of teased a stat for you guys earlier. So Mo Bamba's leading the team in blocks with 85. If I told you that Isaac had the second amount of blocks behind him, how many would you guess he's had on the season?
14.
That would be really crazy. That would be horrible. Andre, do you have a guess?
For Jonathan Isaac, well,
so Bamba's at 80.
So
Bamba's
85. I say Isaac is 100.
No, he's second, so he's behind him.
So
I'm
sorry.
Yeah, he's got
60.
He's got 78 blocks. That's a ton.
Wow.
Yeah, man, versatile, man. He's in there. He's like, man, get that out of here.
He's a long boy, man.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking forward to looking at Nikola Vucevic's face-up game, post moves, back to the basket a little bit, shoot the three from the corner, but really get that mid-range going. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I think they're definitely going to pass the Nets in the standings based on who's not going to Orlando to play for the Nets. But only time will tell. That's kind of it as far as my preview for the Magic. So keep an eye out for those orange jerseys. They're definitely going to stand out.
Yeah, the stat that stood out the most to me, Rich, was those turnovers, because to your point, turnovers equal a loss basically. Just because, I mean, the best teams not only do the best teams protect the ball, but turning the ball over can turn a great player into a good player. And an example of that is Russell Westbrook, right? Yes, he's great, but he also has one of the highest turnover ratios to assists. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he's gotten bounced in the first round. How many years now? It's crazy.
3 or 4 years.
Yeah, if you can't protect the ball, you go from what made you great to kind of middle of the pack, especially in the playoffs. So I can definitely see that being an Achilles heel, not only in the regular season, but if they are in the playoffs. I don't think they stand a chance with any of those teams at the top. But still, you'd like to keep it close. But those turnovers, they get away from you real quick. The games get away from you real quick.
Yeah. And to your point, if people give Lou Williams a lot of crap, and deservedly so, for being a microwave on offense, but not being able to guard anybody on defense, just giving the buckets right back on the other end. The turnover does that exactly. Transition defense is hard as hell, and you're not letting your guys get set. You're putting all of your guys at a disadvantage and basically giving them even easier points by turning it over. So that's going to be real key.
Yep, and the rest of those teams in the East are like monsters in transition as well. So yeah.
With one of the most important. Ben Simmons, Giannis, those dudes can all fly.
Yeah. So got to secure the ball. All right.
All right, so they're scared in Orlando.
Orlando Magic, Rich.
Yeah, that's it for that one.
Cool.
They're scared. I'm scared for them.
Cool. I'm gonna go on to my team, Andre. Let you finish it off. With a bang for us. My team
I got a big one.
My team is the Brooklyn Nets, so we're keeping it over in the East. Brooklyn Nets, right? Kind of in the same position as the Magic, only a half game ahead of the Magic, actually, for that 7 seed. So a lot can change, right? We have 8 games. A lot can change in those 8 games, especially when you're that close. Just a little bit of news before I dive into kind of some key matchups or where I think the Brooklyn Nets will ultimately land. 7 players from the regular season roster will actually not be participating in the reset. Of those players, those include Taurean Prince, who tested positive on July 7th. So just a couple weeks ago, he tested positive, decided not to go. Spencer Dinwiddie at that same time tested positive again. So Spencer Dinwiddie had already tested positive once. Some time passed, I know some people who have gone through the same thing. You get retested to see where you stand. Came back positive again, and he was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna keep it cool. I'm not gonna risk it."
Yeah. So, sorry to interrupt, but basically, a lot of the times, someone might assume that once someone's contracted a positive case, that it's kind of going to wash over them in 2 weeks and it's out. But what you're telling me is that wasn't the case. It went longer than the way he thought it was going to go for.
So it's hard to know where you are on the timeline, right? The test doesn't say, "Oh, you've had it for 5 days. You had it for 1 day." So people typically, from what I've seen and heard or read, is people get tested on a weekly basis. He got tested about close to 2 weeks after and still tested positive. So people think, "Oh, symptoms don't show up for 14 days." So they kind of go with that timeline, right? That 14 days and you're good. But the virus can last longer. So he retested, came back positive again, and was like, not worth the risk. So that's 2 players of the 7. The third player is DeAndre Jordan, who tested positive a week prior to that. About a week prior to that, he had tested positive, opted out. Wilson Chandler, he opted out for personal reasons, decided to spend the time with his family. Admirable. Doesn't want to risk it either. The 2 big names, Kyrie Irving, he had already missed 26 games in the regular season with a shoulder injury. And then he came back in January, played about 6 games, kind of re-aggravated, so decided to have surgery. He actually had arthroscopic shoulder surgery, and that kind of ended the season. So before any of this, we already knew we weren't going to see Kyrie, right? And then, of
nice
course,
pronunciation on that one.
Appreciate that. And, of course, we have KD, who was already recovering from last year's season-ending injury. That just kind of tells you the severity of Achilles tendon, right? We talked about Nurkic's surgery a couple of episodes ago, and how his was kind of a break, right? It was just a bone, not just a bone, but since it was a bone, it's kind of clean. Like you said, Rich, you can see it. You can see kind of what the severity of it and whether its foundation has reestablished. But ligament is just it's a lot more tedious. So heard it in the Western Conference semifinals last year. And or Western Conference. No, he re-injured it in the finals, actually. Sorry.
Yes.
And had a season-ending injury. Of course, that was at the very end of the season. Signed with the Nets in the offseason. Everybody was like, well, the Nets are pretty much paying him. They know that. That's how worth it he was. And then there was speculation, hey, the season's shut down. That gives KD an extra few months to recover. Could we possibly see him in the bubble? But they pretty much early on said that he wasn't going to play. And
we have struck down those people with hope. No way.
Yeah. And then to make matters worse, he actually tested positive for COVID in March. So just another reason for him to play it safe. And then finally, the 21-year-old Nicholas Claxton also underwent shoulder surgery. So there's some in the water out there in Brooklyn that's causing shoulder injuries. But that's 7 players in total from the regular season roster who are not going to make it out to Orlando. So they're very much compromised when it comes to their roster. So you got a team, you got half the roster of people who have not played double-digit games with the Nets. And I'm going to go through a couple of names that they actually acquired just in the last 30 days, Rich. On July 9th, they signed Jamal Crawford, who a lot of people were like, he can still play. He's going to go to the Lakers. Blah, blah, blah. Jamal Crawford's so great. He's the key to a title, et cetera, et cetera. I know he can play, but, people hype him up. Didn't go to the Lakers, which was kind of one of those places where people thought he would go, to go get a ring.
And that makes me happy. Everyone
he
just
didn't ring
assumes that
chase.
the Lakers deserve all the good players.
Yeah, no.
No.
Same day as that, Michael Beasley got signed. Day after, July 10th, Dante Hall was signed. July 15th, Lance Thomas was signed, small forward. And then Justin Anderson, who's been on a couple teams, he was with the Mavericks for a few years, got signed on July 19th. So that's just 5 names that have been signed in less than 2 weeks ago, Rich. So
That's
Andre,
crazy.
Rich, these guys don't even have 2 weeks under their belts, and they have to go out there and perform, right? Yeah, win the playoffs.
Let's
So
go.
it's crazy, right? It's crazy that with the situation we're in, I don't think I've ever seen more than maybe a couple of late season signings, right? And usually those guys are there to ride the bench, but these guys could play significant minutes. You know, these guys could go up against Giannis. You know, it's crazy to think about.
Wow, you're right. Yeah, these are this is like the definition of ragtag.
Exactly, it's the replacements, right?
Riding the bench to, I'm in the playoffs, 7-game series.
Yep. Which brings me to my next point. That'd be great, right? That'd be a kind of like a fairy tale story if they were able to pull off something big. But that brings me to my next point, and it's their matchups. And I don't have any real key matchups because I don't think they're going to be in the playoffs. I think no, they'll be in the playoffs just because the Wizards are good enough to make up
the Wizards.
They're not good enough to make the deficit up. They are only 6 games back of the Nets.
Both of them, actually. Yeah.
So in reality, if they can lose 2 more games than the Wizards, then we'll see that playing game in the East. But as tough as you said the Orlando schedule was, Rich, the Wizards have an even tougher schedule. So I see that the Magic moving up to the 7th seed because I just don't think they have enough people in Brooklyn to really win some of those, closer games against kind of those mid-tier teams.
It's not even players. We don't have enough people.
Exactly. But they'll end up in the 8th seed. They'll play the Bucks. They'll get swept, and that'll be the end of the Brooklyn Nets. Sad day. That's as far as I can go, guys. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to be dim or grim, but we have 7 guys that that are being replaced to go play in a playoff setting. I just don't see it happening. If they somehow pull it off, or even if they pull off a win, against the Bucks, you chalk that up to a successful season, I think.
Jared Allen, I get a lot of blocks.
Yeah. I mean, we might get to see a little bit more of Karis LeVert. I don't know how compromised he is. We haven't seen him in a while. But obviously recovering from last year's injury. But I'm sure we'll see some minutes out of him. Taurean Prince, those guys, they all had moments of brilliance last year. So I'll be excited to see them. But yeah, that does it as far as notable matchups. Just a few notes. I like to go over a few notes. Of course, they're in the mid tier, so they get to stay at the Grand Floridian. So these guys that have been under contract for less than 2 weeks get a better hotel room than Damian Lillard. Psych, he's in the presidential suite. A few other notes. There was speculation at the beginning of the season as to whether KD and Kyrie would try to bring their own guy to coach the Nets. Whenever at the beginning of the season, they're like, this guy's just a filler. Kyrie and KD already have their sights set on somebody else. And I mean, you can make the case that that's true because Jacques Vaughn is only 2-0 as a Nets coach. He was a replacement. So they already have a replacement coach in place. And his personal resume is not that hot. He's 60-158. He had 4 losing seasons in Orlando. So my question to you guys, is there any chance he's the coach next year?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't think so either. I think they're going to go for a proven name like Ty Lue.
There's some names that have been thrown around, and I want to see who you guys think have the best chance. So Mark Jackson is the name that's been thrown around. Tyronn Lue, who we know is an assistant coach right now. Same thing with Jason Kidd. Jeff Van Gundy has been thrown around. David Fizdale and Mike D'Antoni, because Mike D'Antoni is on his last year with the Houston Rockets. So of those 6 guys, who would you think would be the best fit, or who do you think is that KD Kyrie guy? Who best fits that persona?
I wonder how Lue went. How was his relationship with Kyrie? Like, ignoring LeBron. I feel like they're definitely going to go with one of those players' coaches, but yeah, I can see him. Maybe D'Antoni.
Personally,
interesting one, in my opinion.
Who I think would be the best fit.
Yeah, who do you think would be the best fit, and then who you think is likeliest to
maybe
get
Mark Jackson?
Yeah, I think the most likely would be someone that I guess has been looked at as a player's coach in the past. Tyronn Lue. Mark Jackson, the guys seem to like him in Golden State for the most part. He rallied some of the team against other members of the team, so I'm not up on him, but I think they'll end up hiring him. It's likely, and if anything that gets him off of the booth would make me happy. And then the other one that I think is more likely would be David Fizdale, someone that the Miami Heat members loved. But as far as the best fit goes, I think it would be Jeff Van Gundy.
Ooh.
Jeff Van Gundy gets a lot of flack for being old school or being a curmudgeon because he does a lot of, I guess, whining or droning on with Mark Jackson on the broadcast. However, he's not as grating on my nerves personally because a lot of times he'll say things like, like he'll say something that seems obvious, give this guy the ball every time. He's giving guys praise saying it's this simple, you know what I mean? But he's also preaching defensive, characteristics and praising, shows of tenacity. So I think that would be the right guy to bring the right attitude. But I think this general like media narrative or whatever might hold him back, and he isn't someone that screams players coach or says I'm going to have an instant connection to Kyrie and Kevin Durant. He's more of a everyone works as hard as one another on the team. He had great results with Team USA or during an off year when Greg Popovich wasn't coaching, when Team USA was trying to qualify for the tournament. So I think it's Jeff Van Gundy. I'm going to stand for him for quite a while, as much as his brother does, Stan Van Gundy. But yeah, so Stan Van Gundy is my pick. However, I like listening to a broadcast, so we can't lose either way. Dude, he does anything he needs to do to win. He's the guy that hung on to Alonzo Mourning's leg, trying to get him not to fight when he was coach of the Knicks. So he puts his body on the line. So
yeah, he's funny to listen to for sure.
Hey, Ty Lue put his body on the line.
Yeah, I would be curious to hear if he's actually considering coming back to coaching. I'm sure he probably is.
He applied for the Houston Rockets job a couple times, actually.
Yeah, that's true. I would be interested personally to see the Mike D'Antoni project over there. I mean, we think about James Harden as the ultimate offensive weapon, right? The ultimate scorer, gets to the rim, can shoot 1,000 free throws a night. But I think KD in that same offense would be a show. Like if Harden can do that if he's given that much free reign and he can do what he does, imagine KD, the 6'11" power forward who can shoot from anywhere. It'd be sick to watch.
Yeah, I want to see that with KD and Kyrie. I want to see what kind of system he can institute with those two. So I think the most fun would probably be D'Antoni. The most realistic, I feel like, would be either Ty Lue or Mark Jackson. For some reason, I'm just going with those two just because I feel like they would have a stronger connection with the 2 stars. Or I guess the 3 stars. We'll put DeAndre Jordan in there as well.
Man, quit pandering over here, Andre.
But I mean, those are the guys that they're trying to appease, right? They want to make.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they got to keep DeAndre happy too because KD and Kyrie, he's our friend. So yeah, one of those two.
One last little footnote. This might be the last season we see Joe Harris in a Nets jersey. He is a free agent, unrestricted, and the Nets will be well over the salary cap. Who knows what that's going to look like next year? It can't possibly go up. I don't see how it goes up. But even if it stays static, they will be over the cap. So I don't see them re-signing Joe Harris. He was made $7.5 million this year. Could probably pull about the same in the free market again. I could see him ending up on a team that has room and is a contender, like the Raptors or the Heat. The Heat could really use a spot up shooter like him. I don't think they really have somebody that's. I mean, Tyler Herro's pretty solid from the outside, but Joe Harris a little more seasoned. What do you guys think?
I mean, they got Duncan Robinson too. They got Heat's got some.
Do they have 3-point champion?
They don't. Harris? They don't. But why not go for him, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Pat Riley is someone that definitely is not afraid to go after people that he likes, and I'm sure he's got his eyes and tendrils like fingers all over the league. I'm thinking if they could fit it under the cap, he could definitely command a $13 to $15 million salary.
Yeah, they could fit 13 for sure. They're going to be just north of 80 million. So they're one of the teams that have been a little bit smarter with their offseason decision. They unloaded some of those heftier contracts.
And I feel like Dion Waiters is coming off, but that could be my quarantine brain.
I think that's one of the ones I saw that for sure.
Yeah, and so I definitely think that he could make it over there, and yeah, so I like that fit a lot. I didn't think about that earlier, Jonathan. It's really intriguing.
Yep. That does it. That does it for the. I was about to say the Miami Heat. That does it for the Brooklyn Nets segment. We're gonna move on to the final team on the day, and that is the
Washington Wizards, everyone's favorite Eastern Conference playoff contenders. They're in the ninth seed. Ninth seed. Sounds like they might make it, right, guys? Ninth seed.
Anything is possible.
You're in contention, right? You have been mathematically eliminated, but
hey, they got room keys.
Hey, they did.
Just like everybody else.
They did. They're in the hotel.
They're allowed to be on the court.
I mean, Bradley Beal's not in the hotel. John Wall's not there. Davis Bertans isn't there. Gary Payton II's not there. Garrison Matthews isn't there. But they got some guys in that hotel room.
There are people there.
Yeah. So if you guys couldn't tell, I'm not too enthused about the Wizards prospects, and it's kind of hard to be, right? They're 6 games outside of 8th place. And like JV mentioned earlier, their strength of schedule is it's not the best. They start off with Suns, Nets, and then after that you got Pacers who want to maintain their spacing or climb up, Sixers who want to surpass the Pacers, Pelicans who are trying to fight to get in the playoffs, Thunder who want to maintain their place, Bucks, Celtics. It's a hard strength of schedule ahead of them, and them being 6 games out, the Nets have to pretty much lose every game, and the Wizards have to win every game for them to make it.
No disrespect to Anzec Pashniks, but look at the pedigree of the guys on this roster. These are the calling cards of these men that I'm about to describe. Mo Wagner, his top calling card is that he was a Laker once. Ish Smith, he's a responsible backup point guard that doesn't turn the ball over. Admiral Schofield, he's got a cool name. Jan Mahimi, world champion. On the bench, first Japanese NBA player to be drafted in the lottery, I believe, or even drafted, period. So, there's not a lot to work with over here, Andre.
There's really not. And I guess silver lining on this is you get an opportunity to see what the young guys can do. Like Napier and Smith, they're obviously the vets. They've been around. They're setting their ways. You're not going to see anything much from them. But like Troy Brown, Isaac Bonga, Rui Hachimura, yeah, they're all young guys. So you want to see what they can do, given more experience and time with the ball. Rui, he was like their lottery pick, right? Super athletic, but he's been pretty bad rebounding and creating his own shot and finishing for someone his size. So even though he's got a nice touch, you see it at the free throw line. He shoots a respectable about 83% at the free throw line, but you want to see if he can translate that touch a bit to the mid range more, work on his rebound and just work on getting accustomed to the physicality that's part of playing in the NBA. Same with Troy Brown and Isaac Bonga. Like Troy Brown, he is their 4th leading scorer, but he's not getting as much game time with their guard heavy rotation. So for them, it's going to be trying to figure out where they want to go forward, like what direction Scott Brooks wants to go with moving forward. He's come out and said he hasn't really decided what the rotation is going to look like, but right now he's expecting some kind of combination of Napier. Sorry about that. Mic cut out. Yeah. Napier, Troy Brown, Isaac Bonga, Rui Hachimura, and then either Thomas Bryant or Ian Mahinmi. Definitely Ish Smith coming off the bench because, like I said, he's setting his ways. They're not trying to win. This is just an opportunity for them to get experience playing in hostile environment. Trying you're drowning right now, but you're trying to keep your head above water, right? So just get some experience playing under pressure. Let these young guys get the chance to grow a little bit, and just worry about the next season. Like Bradley Beal, he had a right shoulder injury middle of the summer, so he's out the rest of the season. David Bertans just
contract year, man,
not feeling it. Yeah, he's like, yeah, he doesn't
I
want to
gotta
risk
stay in the
anything, so
bag.
he's cool with just sitting this out, right? Gary Payton the second, he actually tested positive for COVID about 2 weeks ago. So he's just not going to travel with the team. And then Garrison Matthews actually had some personal reasons. It's nothing COVID related, but he just said he's not going to travel with the team. So that is the Wizards in a nutshell, man. They just let the young guys get the ball and do their best not to get eviscerated, right?
Yeah, you kind of wonder what Scott Brooks is thinking. He's about to be in the last year of his contract. What is that, JV?
And everyone else get out of the way here. I sit in there and give
Yeah.
the young guys the ball, and everybody else
what
get
can
out
you
of the
do,
way.
man? Develop some of that young talent you got.
Yeah.
Try and get a good draft pick this year, and hopefully when everyone comes back healthy next year, they're right back in it. So that's really all you can do.
They own their draft picks. I'd be curious to see that.
Like those post-game press conferences, if they have any, or they do like post-game Zoom calls or whatever's going on after the game, I don't even think the reporters are gonna ask, about how the game went or if they're gonna win the next one. It's gonna be more like, did you see that cut that Rui Hachimura had off the pick in the third quarter? It looked promising. We think we can speed that up. So I think it'll be stuff like that.
Yeah. Forgot to mention our boy Rui Hachimura's signature shoes coming out this month, Andre.
Oh yeah, end of the month. The signature what? The 33s or the 34s?
34s.
They're 34s. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a player edition. It's 34. Yeah, it's a player edition. It looks pretty nice. It's got a little bit of, I don't know what inspired it. I'm willing to bet some Japanese culture stuff.
It looks kind of like
But
it was
I didn't really look
Olympics
into it.
related, right? Like the colors look kind of like the Olympic rings, like they would have been, because this
Yeah,
would have been
that would make sense too.
Olympics time. Yeah. So, I mean, they're pretty nice. Definitely check those out if you're sneakerhead like we are. So, yeah, if you're a Wizards fan, you just want to chalk this experience up to, hey,
I have
we're
a
here for the
question,
ride.
guys.
Let's see how they do.
I actually have before your question, JB, if you don't mind. I have a little bit of a tidbit because you mentioned the Jordan 34s that Rui is going to kind of come out with. I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but Jumpman and Michael Jordan have kind of expanded their NBA partnership. We could be seeing some Jumpman logos on more than just the Charlotte Hornets starting in 2021 on
Makes
the
sense.
statement jerseys. So I think that's going to look pretty fresh.
I think, yeah, especially the certain athletes that are signed under Jordan, like we could see some on Mavericks, Pelicans, maybe OKC, Houston. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a thing.
Yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, sorry to interrupt, JV. What was your question for us?
So if the Wizards don't make it to the 8th seed, they would qualify for the draft lottery, correct?
Yeah, I believe they still qualify.
What are the chances that one of these 8 and 7 seeds tank so that they can make it to the draft lottery? I never even thought of that till just now.
I mean, the way that, like, you might as well tank.
I mean, if you're the Nets or if you're the Magic,
well,
are you better off tanking and being in the lottery, even though the odds are very low at that point?
Can they even tank?
Can
those guys tank, even though they technically can't?
I feel like I've read that they've locked the spots.
They've almost locked the spots. They have to lose
every
game, and the Wizards have to win at least 2 or 3, and that's a tall order for them.
You forget there's a play-in, sir. What if you're in the 9th seed?
So
and
the
you
Nets
lose the play-in? Or sorry, the 8th. Sorry. Yeah, what if you fall to the 8th and then you lose the play-in game, and let's say the Wizards, because the Wizards could play a play-in game against the Nets, so they're only 6 games up, which means they only have to get within 4, which is not a lot. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Probably not going to happen. But if it happens, there's a play-in game, and then let's say the Nets lose that game, do they then become lottery eligible? Was my question, but I think you guys answered it.
Yes.
Was the answer yes or the answer no?
Yeah. I mean, like, if you're not in the playoffs, you're in the lottery, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the Nets could technically fall to 8th, lose the play-in, and then be in the lottery. Cool. Yeah. That's what I was asking. See, they could tank, Andre. They could tank.
That's some super intense tanking.
like that play-in game, right? Are you like, do I really want to win these games, or should I just be in the draft lottery? But interesting question. We'll save that one for next time. Is that it for the Washington Wizards?
Hey, y'all got
Hello,
something else?
Wizards. I don't have
No,
much
we
else.
we read the roster. We've done it.
All right. They
You could
signed Jerry Grant
you,
on July 1st, though. He's a point guard. They got a bunch
Andre.
of point
Oh,
guards
he's
right
probably
now.
Richard. You could have done a who he play for with the entire Wizards roster.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all realized it, but that first player that I mentioned, that was a guy on the roster, Anzish Pashniks, who he played for. He's on the Wizards.
Oh man.
Anyway,
This was fun.
24 years old. Yeah.
This is fun. That does it for this week's episode. This was for this week's three teams, or this episode's three teams. We'll have another 3 on next week's episode. We're down to 8. No, sorry. We're down to 11. No, yeah, we're down to 8. Yeah, we're down to 8 teams, right, Rich?
that's right.
8 teams with about 8 days left before the first regular season game. So things are getting heated. Like Rich mentioned earlier, the first scrimmage games are only a couple days away. I think within the next 48 hours we'll get to watch our first televised one, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
So that'll be good. It'll be interesting. So those
We can
of
end
you
all
out
these
there,
fishing clips.
yeah, those of you who have been out there fiending for some basketball, the wait is almost over. We will be back next episode with another 3 teams as part of the NBA campus preview. If you don't already follow us on Twitter at ShotCallerShow so that you can find out when our next episode pops up on your stream. We are also on Instagram, _ShotCallers. Like I said, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Radio.com, Breaker, and Apple Pocket Cast. Sorry. And then if you want to send us a message, you can reach us at shotcallershow@gmail.com. That does it for this week's episode. Until next time, I'm JV.
I'm Rich, and I'm still excited, but not as excited as last episode. But the NBA is almost here.
And I'm Andre.
I think we're going to leave Rich for the last one next time. See how next time.
Just so much excitement.